Hello and welcome to Oakland County's Commissioner's Corner. My name is Kathy Crawford and I'm the Oakland County Commissioner for District 9, which is the representation of most of Novi as well as the Northville portion of Oakland County. And each month at Commissioner's Corner I feature a special guest, and today is truly a special guest because it's somebody I've known for a very long time, and he's always interesting and always informative, and I know that you're going to find this to be the case. And I would ask you that maybe you'd want to get a pencil and paper in case there's some kind of notes that you would like to take during this show. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Robert Gatt, Mayor Robert Gatt, the mayor of the city of Novi. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
Bob.
Call me Bob.
Call
Bobby?
me Bob. Bob.
Bobby.
I always want to call you Bobby, but I'm sorry about that. Well, anyway, we're delighted, or I don't know. I'm the only one here, so well, I'm delighted to have you here. And I wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about the fact that you've been on Novi City Council now for how many years?
Well, I was first elected in 2003. I served 2 four-year terms and was elected mayor in November of last year.
And you were the mayor pro tem for Mayor Landry.
I was the mayor pro tem for Mayor Landry for about 3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
Wow,
I learned a lot
flies.
from Mayor Landry.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure you did. Now you're on your own, so
well,
that's a
I'm on my own
story.
as mayor, but I've got a good support staff with me. We got a great council.
I know we do.
Yeah.
Because I was on it for a while too, so that was good. Some viewers may not know this, and some people have watched the show, but you were a city employee as well as I. We're both city employees, and maybe they're not aware that you were in fact a Novi police officer. How many years were you a Novi police officer?
Kathy, I started with the Novi Police in 1975. That's pre the mall, pre most of the paved roads in Novi, and you and I know that. I spent 27 years serving as a police officer, and they were the best 27 years of my life.
Well, you know, and I got to tell stories. The fact that when I was the director of the senior center, you would come and talk to the seniors about fraud and scams, because there's always somebody that's trying to do something bad to people and always trying to pick on the most vulnerable of our population, and people that are trusting, you know, which is many of the seniors are more trusting than maybe some other people in the population. So anyway, one thing that I always used to love is that you would actually tell them, because they were always afraid when they'd get a phone call, they thought they always had to answer the phone. And if somebody said they were a police officer, they would listen to the entire call. And I remember distinctly how you used to say to them, just hang the phone up.
That's exactly right.
You don't have to listen, right?
You
and
don't
what else
have
did
to
you
listen.
tell them?
You know, back in those days, as you remember, that's before Meadowbrook Commons and before Fox Run and before the senior communities where the seniors lived together. So a lot of these people lived alone, and they were very susceptible to scams and other crimes that the bad guys would pick the old people out because they were an easy mark. And the phone was one of the easiest ways to do it. The senior would get a phone call and somebody would say, I'm from the police department, I need some money, I need this or that. And they were afraid to hang up. They were afraid not to talk to them. They were afraid not to give in to them. But I had a lot of fun. They taught me something. I was in my 30s or late 20s back in those days. And they told me that, I said, define the senior population, you know, and they told me when you're age 60, you're now a senior citizen. And they said that was the youth of old age, 60. And now that I'm 62 years old, I'm a little bit past that. But,
I'm way past that too, myself.
But I loved working with the senior community, and you were the director. You made everything so fun. Jan McAlpine was there, and that was my favorite duty, going to the senior center and talking to them. And we used to banter back and forth, and
well, I
to
know
this day.
You were Officer Bob also
Officer
in
Bob.
the schools, you know, and went and talked to the kids too.
Well, I was the
things.
first uniformed police officer in the schools, and back in those days, that was quite a trick, getting the schools to allow a uniformed officer in the schools. I taught the DARE program, the DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Novi was about the third or fourth community in the state to offer DARE. I was lucky. I was taught by the Los Angeles Police Department, and later on they asked me to be a trainer, frankly, and I was another great duty. So if I wasn't talking to the kids, I was talking to the senior citizens, and I just had a wonderful career.
Well, they believed you. I know that whenever you would come and talk to them, because there's a new scam out there every single week. Just like today, there's something new that people are getting scammed over.
Absolutely.
And a lot of seniors, because they're at home, they're the ones that seem to get targeted all the time.
Yes.
But I know you and I can go on and talk about all day and night about the senior programs and the youth programs and everything. But you and I both this week had the privilege of being at the Public Safety Awards ceremony at the Baronet, where we recognized a number of our officers, both police and fire. And while we were sitting together, it suddenly dawned on me, too, that I was there to present some awards to 5 or 6 of the firefighters that had gone to a fire and actually had rescued someone, and some of them were injured. But I was astounded at the number of times during the year our firefighters and our police have saved other lives.
Kathy, and I'm not just saying this, we do have the best police and fire departments anywhere in the state and probably the country. It started a long time ago. You know, Libby Gohl started the police department, and he was also the first fire chief. And you know, his demeanor, his reputation just has carried forward these 55 or 60 years. And consequently today, we have heroes that work for us, and we take them for granted. I was with you. We were privileged. We saw some firefighters who risked their lives in a burning fire, and if anybody saw that house afterwards, they'd realize how bad that was. They went in and saved a man's life. But there are officers, fire and police, every day who respond to people having heart attacks, respond to people who are in car accidents, and their quick actions save lives all the time, more than we know, and we just take it for granted.
And one of the awards was actually given to a civilian, a young 8-year-old girl who alerted her mother or alerted people that there was a young boy in a pond. Fell through the ice. And
yeah, exactly.
It ultimately saved his life. So there's heroes, all sizes, all
shapes,
civilians
and,
as well as.
Absolutely, yeah. We live in a great community. Novi is a very unique. I keep telling people it's the best city in the world. Now, people laugh at me when I say that because I'm prejudiced. I think you are too, but
definitely.
It really is. It's the best.
Well, I think that one of the things that's kind of unique that I've noticed being the Oakland County Commissioner, I don't see a lot of efforts, and maybe there's just too many hurdles, but I don't see a lot of efforts for departments to kind of right-size themselves in cities, and some of the cities, frankly, are really in a terrible way financially.
They're in trouble.
But one of the unique things that we've done, and one thing that I noticed when I was campaigning a couple years ago, is that I found out the city of Novi cross-trains people in departments, and I thought that was very intriguing, and it means, too, that if the public goes to a counter during noon, there's somebody there even from another department that actually can answer their question or help them.
It's called community government. There's no one in the government, any department that will say, that's not my job, you have to go somewhere else. They're all trained to at least handle the problem on its merit in the beginning. They may turn it over to the expert later. But we don't, in Novi, say, that's not my job, you have to go see so-and-so. We believe that the community is here to be served, and frankly, every employee, we have 200 plus employees here, and their main goal is to service the community, and they do the best job in the world.
And I think it appears to me, as a person who's lived in the city all their life, it appears to me that effort really took hold a number of years ago, but really is coming to fruition now, because it wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't always like. Let's take the police and fire. A few years ago, David Malloy was promoted from being the police chief to the director of public safety / police chief. He didn't give up that title. But so now David is in charge of the police and the fire department, and consequently, the top echelon of both departments are beginning to cross-train. Not that the policeman's going to be a fireman or the fireman's going to be a policeman, but when the bosses know what each other does for a living, it makes it so much easier to cooperate with each other and run a smooth public safety department. And David Malloy should get a lot of credit for that, as well as Clay Pearson, who's the city manager that implemented that.
Because at the award ceremony, there were several officers recognized. Jeff Johnson, who was in charge of the fire department,
Jeff Johnson
went to the police,
the Police
training
Reserve
for police,
Academy.
Reserve
It was
Academy.
several months long, and consequently, Jeff now knows what it's like to be a policeman. Now, he may not do it every day, but when problems happen, he will have a feel for what the police officer goes through. And Victor Loria and Tom Lindbergh, who has since left us to become the police chief in Milford, these two officers were trained in fire prevention, and so they're doing the same thing. The cross training is a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
It's something that wasn't available when I was a young cop. In fact, was almost discouraged to commingle with the police and fire back in those days. We were wrong. I mean, the way they're doing it now is much better, more efficient.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm interested, because this has been budget time, so I'm interested in knowing, and with you sharing with the public, what the measures are that Novi City Council and the administration are taking to help the citizens and to watch over the citizens' money, for example.
Well, Kath, I'll look you right in the face and tell you I am the most elated mayor of any city in probably the state, maybe the country. I can tell you that we just passed a budget where we're going to give the citizens of Novi a decrease in their taxes with no corresponding cuts in service. We are decreasing the taxes to the tune of about $1 million. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's going to get, a big check in the mail, but it does mean that we're going down in taxes, and no other municipality can do that.
It's so unusual that it makes us all sort of freak out in a way. It's like, no, maybe you shouldn't give it back to us. Like, how is it? Have you managed things right? Or
well, we've managed
why do we
things.
get
Well,
money
we have a
back?
very fiscally conservative council that was elected by the folks. A couple of years ago, we took some very difficult steps and made some very difficult decisions, and we right-sized the government. There was the resulting layoffs in a few different departments. Last year, we didn't have to do that. We remained pretty steadfast, pretty steady. This year, because of what we did the last couple of years, and because we've seen an increase in the property values, not a dramatic major one, but it's starting to uptick a little bit. We were able to decrease the taxes because we have a drain fund that is so well funded that we don't have to put any more money into that. So we took that fund and we reduced it by 0.3 of a mil, and that's what we're giving back to the citizens.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that's great news. Do you see us then getting in better shape financially? I mean, we're growing. We're one of the few municipalities, as far as I can see, that are actually growing.
Well, the
census
that was done in 2010 shows that Novi was the fastest growing city in Oakland County. We're now up to 55,000 residents. And yes, I do think that things are getting better. The city council sees more building permits, more residential permits, more commercial permits. We see people starting to clamor to come back to this city, and I look for, now don't get me wrong, we're not going back to where we were 6-7 years ago when the council used to fight about what we're going to do with all the extra money. That's not in the cards yet, but I do see Novi rebounding from what the whole country's been faced for the last few years quicker than most.
Yeah, it's really kind of tragic what you see around the county and outside our county. This whole region really has suffered. I know one of the really fun things to do, I know when I was on city council, I loved going to ribbon cuttings. Do you see that there's a number of new businesses moving into Novi?
Kath, if I had the time, I could probably go to a ribbon cutting 3 or 4 days a week. I work in Pontiac. It's difficult for me to get to some of the ribbon cuttings, but yes, Novi is opening more businesses. Now, what we're waiting for, and what the public's gonna, I hope everybody comes to this ribbon cutting, and that's gonna be sometime later this summer when Walmart opens. And I know that's a controversial topic, but I personally am in favor of that store coming there. It was zoned for that store. If anybody's been to the town center in the last 6 months, you'll see that it's booming there. People are trying to get into the Walmart area because that's going to attract a lot of customers.
Well, it's actually at our gateway, really, of the city, that whole town center area.
It is.
And we need for it to be successful. When I was on city council, I voted in favor of Walmart coming because I didn't want to see empty businesses for years. That's not a
Exactly.
good thing to see.
And it was zoned for that specific type of business. So we really couldn't turn it down if we wanted to, but I'm very happy. It's about ready to open. The weather's been wonderful and they're ahead of schedule. It's going to open, I was told, sometime in August, and I'll be there for that ribbon cutting, I promise you that.
Well, what do you think? What do you think is going to be our biggest challenge in the next year or two?
Well, it's certainly revenue. I mean, as I said, we're not going to go back to where we were for a long time because of Headley. Headley's a law that was passed in the late 70s. Even if property values increased 100%, we could only increase the value by the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is less. So we have a long way to go to make up for all the monies that we've lost in the last 4 or 5 years. And so we're always going to be walking on eggshells for the next few years, but I see us coming out of this without any more reductions in staff or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd like to know a little bit more about what your hopes and dreams are for Novi. I'd like to know how you see our future.
Well, Novi's changing. Our demographics are changing, and we're becoming an older population. Myself.
Me too.
Well, and what I see in the future is more amenities for the older adults. For instance, in our last budget, we did pass the budget where we're going to double the number of handicap parking spots at the Civic Center. Now, that's something you advocated. I was hoping that we could reconfigure the south side of the Civic Center and stop people from having to walk over those islands, but the cost is prohibitive. So we're going to start with just doubling the number of handicap spots in the front of the Civic Center on the north side, and we'll see how that works out. When Novi's built out, we're going to have about 80,000 people. I see that that's not going to happen in the next 5 years, but in the next 10 or 15 years, I believe that as long as the economy stays strong, it's stronger by the year, and I suspect it will, I think Novi is going to turn into the perfect blend of commercial, residential. We've been wonderful in our planning. Right now, we have about a 50% split in residential and commercial. And that's why when one went down and the other one stayed steady, Novi wasn't as hurt as some communities who really relied heavily on one and not the other. So when this is all done, when Novi's built out, we're going to maintain that 50-50 split. We're a community that has embraced diversion. We have a cultural diversity in Novi. We celebrate Indian holidays and Japanese holidays and Chinese holidays, and we welcome them. We are a city that has about 6,000 Japanese living here. We have
supposed to be the largest in the entire state of Michigan.
The largest in
right?
the state of Michigan. There's over 60 businesses that are headquartered in Japan, over 25 businesses headquartered in Germany. So we have built a diverse community, and because of that diversity, we're geared to stay strong in the future.
That's why we were named by Family Circle magazine as number
one of
6.
One of the 10 best cities in the whole country to raise a family.
Amazing.
I mean, that's astounding. And it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's number 1.
Well,
I think they made a
that's
mistake.
you and I.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think has kept our city strong are the people that we get to serve on boards and committees, and people like yourself that step up and run for public office. It's not an easy decision to make, right? And do you think it's getting more and more difficult to find people who are willing to make that commitment?
Well, yes, to be frank. I've noticed in the last few years the number of applicants for our various boards and commissions are down. Certainly a couple years ago, 4 years ago, I ran for city council unopposed. So yes, and I would hope that the people watching this, if they have the time and the commitment to this city and to the future of this city, that they will step forward and put their names in for various boards and commissions. We're going to be interviewing in June for several different spots, and they can call the city clerk and find out what's open and
so they have to fill out an application.
They fill out an application, and then they come to city council and they are submitted to a 5-minute interview. It's not hard.
No, it's not hard, but it is a little intimidating if you've never done anything like that before, and you might think you have to have some wealth of experience, to be on the planning commission or something, but a lot of that is learned you know, I mean, you are trained.
Exactly.
And so you know how to read
You just
prints
have to
or
have the
whatever.
desire.
Yeah,
Now, one
the
thing
willingness.
that makes me think that the future is great is that we have a youth council in Novi.
Yes.
And that youth council, there's more applicants than there are openings. And so if they stay put and stay in the city of Novi, those people will be the future, and we're going to be in good hands.
No, great. Because I always kind of worry about people don't understand, even to run for mayor or to run even for city council, it's very expensive. It's expensive to put up signs. It's expensive to do a mailing, and thousands and thousands of dollars sometimes even to run for a county office, which really stops some people from running.
It can be intimidating. It really can be. And I would just tell the viewing audience, if you have the desire, try it, because if you don't succeed, you know, it's not going to be the end of the world for you. But if you want to do it, you can do it. I did it. You did it. And we're not any more special than anybody else.
We never thought we would be
No,
be running
Kathy,
for
you and I are
public
the
office.
first and only retired employees of the city of Novi that went on to serve on city council. And that
not
really,
because we were mad.
No, it really gave us, I believe, a leg up on other people, because we understand what the employees face, what they go through on a
Right.
daily basis. I understood the unions and the union contracts very well from being a police officer my whole life, and that really helped. That has helped me and continues to help me as mayor today.
But anyway, I know that there's probably a lot of things that we could talk about. And I want to thank you so much, Bobby, for coming on this show,
pleasure.
because you're my first mayor
Well-
on the show, and you're always my first mayor in my heart. So I thank you for taking the time
Thank
to
you
come
for
out
having me.
today. And I hope that our audience will stay tuned for another, and not only will they watch this show more than once, so they can write down everything you said if they want to. And in addition, I hope that you'll watch continuing shows, because we have a number of people that are coming up that are just as interesting as Mayor Robert Gatt. So thanks, Bobby, for coming
Thank
today.
you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.